Okay, so to make a scatter plot in the calculator, you first hit Stat, Edit. If you have something in your calculator already there, you notice that if you hit Clear, nothing actually happens. So if you want to delete something, you hit the Delete key, and that will move everything up. Or if you have a lot of things you want to delete, you scroll all the way up to the top. So say there's something in here. You scroll up to the top, you notice this L3 says 6 and 9, and you hit Clear, and it's not going to do anything until you hit Enter. So if you have a lot of stuff in here already, that's how you would delete it. Okay, so to put a value in, the X goes into L1 and the Y goes into L2. So you have to remember this is X, Y. So you just put in your value, like 1.2, and you hit Enter. It will default go to the next X value, which is 2.5. So you can enter all your X values in if you have a table like that. If you don't have a table and you want to put the points in one at a time, you go over to L2 and you put number 1 and number 6 here. And so let's say I want to put in 2.5 and 7.5. I'm going to put in 2.5 and then hit Enter. Then I have to arrow up over to this spot here to put in the 7.5. So you can do it either way. Some people, just to be super careful, they put in each point one at a time. So that's what I'm going to do, is do 4.1 and then arrow over to put in 11. And then the next one is 7.9 and 19. So I'm going to go over here to 7.9, enter, and then go up here to 19. Okay, so now I'm going to count how many I have. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and I have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. You notice that when I am scrolled here, this says 5. So you don't have to count these. This last one says 5, 4, 3. So this last one says 5, and there's 5 values here. Now I'm going to also go back and check to make sure that I did it right. So I have 1.21, 2.56, 2.57.5, 4.1, 11, 7.9, and 19. So I am good. Okay, so to get out of this screen, you can hit second mode, which is quit. And I'm going to try to graph these. So you notice when I hit graph, I don't see anything. So second mode gets you out of the graph. So you're going to go to, you see where the y equals is? Right above it, it says stat plot, and this is the stat button. So I want to plot these points because I want to make a scatter plot. So you hit second y equals, which is blue, just like the second button. And I'm going to turn on the plots for number 1. So I'm going to hit enter here, and this lets me go up and down. I'm going to hit enter on the on. So I hit enter, and that turns on my plots. It also darkens this. The type is by default scatter plot. There's other types of graphs here, and I want to make sure my X list is L1 and my Y list is L2. You can change these if you want to. Let me show you how to do that. Let's say I want to change this to L3. Down here you see it says L1, L2, and L3. So let's say I get second L3. That makes X L3. But I'm going to go back to L1. Just make sure it's L1 and L2. You can also change your mark, but I'm happy with that, so I'm going to hit graph. Now, my points show up, but it doesn't, these 2 points are missing. I only have 3 points here, and that's because 11 and 19 are on the graph. When I hit window, see it only goes from -10 to 10. And that's why I can't see those points. Now you can, if you want to, you can change this actually to say 20. And that will actually, oops, actually that was the Y value I needed to change. You can change that Y value to say 20. And change this X value to something smaller. So if you change those, it will show it on your graph. But the best way to do it is to hit zoom. And number 9 is zoom stat. And that will give you the best view for what you want to look at. I mean, you can play with the window, but if I look at the window, it's going to give me the optimum block size to the optimum size to make my graph look good for statistics. It's going to center everything. So once again, the window tells you the X and Y value, and some people use this when they're graphing by hand. And the graph shows you this. Now you can see from the scatter plot, the correlation is positive. So there's positive, negative, or relatively no correlation. If I want to see what these points are, I'm going to, if I hit the up and down arrow, you see this little cursor moves around the screen. If I want to actually be on the point, then I hit trace. Trace will take me to this first point. It says L1 and L2, plot 1, L1 and L2. Here's X for 1.2 and Y for 1. And now you notice that when I hit the up and down arrow, nothing happens here. The only way to move from one point to the other is to move the X value. Okay, so that's how you can play with the graph. If you want to get out of it, you just hit second quit. Okay, now find the line of best fit or trend line using linear regression. So here you're going to hit stat, and this time you're going to go to calc. And number 4 is linreg, which is for linear regression. It's also ax plus b, so that's the same as y equals mx plus b. So I'm going to go to number 4. X is L1, Y is L2. You can change these if you want to, just by going down here. But I'm happy with L1 and L2. And for now, I'm going to say calculate. And it says A is 2.5 and B is -2. So this is the slope is 2.53 and the y-intercept is -3.2. So if I were to graph that, it would be very close. So to get out of here, I'm going to hit second quit. And let's say I actually want to graph it. Now you notice with y equals, I'm going to put something in this y1. So that says y1. So I'm going to hit stat again, calc. And this time I'm going to go to number 4. I'm just going to hit 4. And where it says store RQ, you want to put that into y1. So you're going to go to this vars for variable. The second one says y vars, that's for y variables. And then the first one says function. And then the first one says y1. You can put it anywhere if you want to. You can put it in y2 if you want. And this time I'm going to say calculate. And it does the same thing. Except now, when I go to y1, y1 has this slope, this 2.53. And then it's followed by an x, because y equals mx plus, and the b value is -3.023. And when I hit graph, the line actually goes through the points. So when I now hit trace, remember to move back and forth from the points, I have to hit these side-to-side arrows. But now when I go up and down, see the y1 is my line, and going down is the points. That says plot 1 for L1 and L2. So if you have more than one thing on your graph, you look up here and it'll tell you where you are. And now this cursor, or little spider, is walking along that line. And if I want to go back to my points, I hit the down arrow. And that's going to take me back to my points. Notice this is the X and the Y value here. So that brings us to this third one. Given an X value of 5, find the predicted Y value. So you can do that a couple ways. So first, you've already got the graph in your calculator. You can go to second graph for table and go to this table here, and you can arrow down to number 5, and it says 12.345. So that should be easy for us to remember. It's 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. If you're on your graph, you can hit trace and go up to the line. See, now I'm moving along the line, and see if I can find 5. So you see my x is 4.55. If I move side to side, it's going to take me closer to 5. Well, it looks like I can't quite get to 5. So it's about 12.28. But that's not exactly 5. So you can estimate it. That might be close enough if you're on a test to get the value. The other thing you can do is you can go to second calc, which is this trace has this calc. See that? It says calculate. Number 1 says value. So it says x equals, and I'm going to put in 5. And you notice when I hit calculate, it gave me 12.344, which is 12.345, which we had already seen in the table. So it immediately went to this value of x. So this answer here would be 12.345.